I'm not gonna lie, but I am a little bit intimidated by doing a monthly setup in this journal. It's huge. Like, I know we already talked about it, but come on, there's gonna be so much space and I'm not really too sure how I'm gonna fill it, but we'll tackle this together. Hello again, team. Welcome back for my May plan with me. Oh my god. I know we're not at May yet. I'm setting this up a little bit early, but still. Along with the size thing, I'm also just a little bit apprehensive because our theme for today is pandas and I'm not great at drawing animals, but we're gonna give it a go. Let's get into it. To start off our setup, rather than going in with a quote page, I'm instead putting in a monthly projects list. This is similar to the setup that I typically do in my content creating journal, and I found it quite helpful for those tasks, so I thought I'd try a similar thing in this one. Normally the first thing I'd start a monthly setup with would be a quote page, but I've been finding myself leaning away from this. In part probably just because I felt like I needed a change, and also because I wanted to make the start of my monthly setup a bit more functional. Having this master list of the projects that I'm intending on completing in the month of May, I figured was a good way to achieve that need for functionality. Not to say that decoration isn't just a function, and I have made it a little bit decorative with the bamboo borders that I'm using. You may remember these from my April setup back in 2020, where I did a bamboo theme, even though I kind of feel that some of the bamboo ended up looking a little bit like corn. For this setup, because the theme is pandas rather than bamboo, I didn't do any of the more detailed bamboo, just the simple borders, which are done by putting in blocks of colour and then going over the outlines with the same coloured pen to make them a little bit darker. Super easy and just a little bit of a decorative touch. Something that seems to be becoming a trend for my May setups is using printed headers in my journal. So rather than lettering in the headers for each page, I've pre-made a bunch of headers on the computer, just in Microsoft Word using my font of choice, and printed all these out and stuck them into my journal. This is one of the ways that I like to save time when setting up my journal, in particular in seasons of life when things are a little bit hectic. When it came to doing this setup, we're in the middle of the end of term busyness, and I'm also getting ready to go to Melbourne. When this one goes live, I'll actually already be in Melbourne, but that meant I needed to get it planned out, filmed and edited before I went away. As you can see though, here we're working on my cover page for the month. The design of this one was loosely inspired by Study Susan over on Instagram, but we just have two little pandas and some bamboo in this circular shape. For all of the little panda decorations that I used in today's setup, I wanted to make them look as cute as I could possibly make them, and also a little bit derpy by having them all stick out their tongues. I don't know why, it just kind of seemed fitting, so any of the pandas that are looking at the bamboo could be sticking out their tongue because they're like, yeah, bamboo, I'm gonna eat it. And then the one up the top here, for instance, could be sticking out its tongue kind of like a, nah, 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 I'm up on a ledge, or something like that. I just thought they looked kind of cute. I will say I'm actually pretty impressed with how the majority of my pandas turned out in this setup. Some of them looked a little bit not quite right, but these two on the cover page I am very pleased with. I decided I wanted to get a little bit more decorative with my cover page this time around, and I decided to turn it into a Dutch door by cutting away almost half of the page. This is something that I recently saw Chloe of Bullet Journal by Chloe do. She's done this in a couple of her setups for this year and I thought they looked really cool. So having a Dutch door on the front of the cover page, followed by a page that has a decorative coloured panel, which is visible from the cover page, and then having each of the pages of her monthly setup have tabs. Hopefully this will make a little bit more sense as I start to cut away some more pages and put in some more decoration. But in terms of timing, the monthly projects list took 9 minutes from first touch of the pen to final erasings, and the cover page took about 23. As per usual though, this doesn't include sketching in time or idea generation time, or the time taken to make those printed headers, though those didn't take very long. Flipping over though, and typically would be moving on to my monthly log, but because of the Dutch door, I didn't have quite as much space to work with here. So instead, I decided to put in my monthly challenge page on the left and my monthly action list on the right. These two took 17 and 8 minutes respectively, again from first touch of the pen to final erasings. And you can see here I'm cutting away the edge of the page to make that little tab along the side. Prior to recording, I already made the tabs on our subsequent pages, so you can see those poking through. And to make the tabs a little more decorative, I also stuck some washi tape on either side, just using a couple of green washi tapes that I actually previously got rid of in a destash. I just haven't properly destashed the destash yet. so it's all just kind of sitting in the corner of my office, waiting to be destashed properly. I'm glad I didn't actually destash them though. Every green washi tape that I used in this setup was from that destash pile. Here you can see I'm putting in the first of the pandas that go on this page, with the other one going in the other bottom corner, and these are the two pandas in particular that I struggled the most with. I think it was probably just the angle they're on isn't the same as the rest of the pandas in the setup, so getting the dimensions right on them was a little bit more tricky. I'm still pretty pleased with how they turned out, but they're not quite as nice looking as the other guys, but they're special in their own way. Another element that I've become somewhat addicted to using in my journal setups is highlighting every second line on a page with a light coloured marker. In this case I used the light green Calligraph from the most recent Archer & Olive subscription box, but previously I've also used Tombows for the same effect. Not only do I think it adds another nice visual element to the page, but it also makes it a lot easier to read across what my tasks are, to kind of see them separated from each other. I did sadly make a mistake when I was putting in the highlighted lines on the left-hand page. You can see at the bottom there we accidentally skip a line when we weren't supposed to, but because it is a lighter colour, I don't think it's quite as obvious as it could have been. For my action list that I'm working on here, as usual we have those 3 sections, so a space for my monthly or one-off actions, a space for my weekly actions, and then tracking for this on the right-hand side, and then down the bottom a space to outline what my daily actions are. These ones won't be tracked on the action list, I'm going to be tracking them as part of my weekly habit trackers, but this just provides me a reference to look back at, so I make sure that I track those things. As the part of the right hand page that was cut away was much smaller than the part on the left, this means our next spread is big enough for me to include my monthly log. I've gone back to the full spread calendar design for this one, and I'm using separate individual boxes. The nice part about the B5 is that I can still have all of these boxes be 6 squares across by 6 squares down, and also have a gap in between them. I think this is one of the things that I am going to quite enjoy about the B5, just having a bit more space to put my calendar in, and also plenty of room to include decoration. Because I use a Monday start calendar, the month of May actually spans 6 weeks. So we have the 1st on a Sunday, so one day in that first week, and then the 30th and 31st are on the Monday and Tuesday, so on another week by themselves. Rather than positioning my calendar so I actually had 6 weeks, what I instead typically do when the month does this is put the first and the last week on the same line. So you can see we have 2 boxes for Monday and Tuesday at the top, then a large space and a box for Sunday. So that Sunday box is for the 1st of the month, while the Monday and Tuesday boxes are for the 30th and 31st. This is just how I like to do it. I'd prefer to have each of the days have their own full boxes, rather than putting a half box for the Monday and Tuesday at the end of the month. But I'd be curious to know how you tackle this. Do you do something similar to what I've done here? Or are you more inclined to just have it span the full 6 weeks? Or do you do half boxes for those days at the end of the month? Or of course, anything else. You will have seen me go in and put in those dots of colour for each of our calendar boxes. These are going to be used to house the numbers for the days of the month. But these ones were done with my Zig clean coloured dot markers. This is a new addition to my pen collection that I've been very much enjoying. I've been wanting to get these for ages, and the cool people at Stationery Pal sent me some. If you wanted to get yourself some, I have a link to the set that the light green one that I used came out of, and of course I also have a discount code for Stationery Pal, which is JashiiCorrin, and gets you 12% off your order. We always love a saving. Another tradition that I usually have for May, and one that I will be upholding this year, is that instead of writing May on my monthly calendar, I of course had to put in, "It's gonna be May." This is my favourite meme of all time, so it always has to make an appearance in my journal when it's May. Sticking in the rest of our headers though, in terms of timing, the monthly log took the longest to finish in this setup, coming in at about 23.5 minutes. Again, this is from first touch of the pen to final erasings, and doesn't include idea generation time or sketching in. Flipping over though, and the next page we have is a space for notes and tracking of the J&R book club. The book genre for May is fantasy, and I'm really glad that I'm not in charge of picking our list for this one, because fantasy is a pretty big category that both Rachel and I quite enjoy, so narrowing that down is going to be hard. If you want to get involved with the J&R book club, we have a monthly book club meeting over on Discord, which is linked in the description box. But in terms of picking the book for each month, that one's done on our Facebook community group via a poll.
Again, also linked in the description. Another thing we've started doing in the Discord more recently is every so often having a Bujo and Chill event. So just a group video call where we all kind of hang out, talk about journaling stuff, and work in our journals. It's been really nice to getting to meet some of our community members that way, and of course if you want to join in, you just have to join our Discord. On the right hand side of our spread though, we have my May reflection page, taking a pretty similar format to usual, just a bit more condensed because it's only on one page rather than a full spread. And in terms of timing, the book club tracker took about 2 minutes, and the monthly reflection took about 5.5. Before we get into setting up our next spread, I figured we'd do our flip through of the month that we're currently in, so April. If you don't mind me asking, I was wondering, do you actually find value in seeing the flip through of the month that I'm currently working in? I think it's kind of nice to give you guys an impression of how the pages are coming along, how I'm using them, how they're getting filled up, or not. But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. One of the things that I found quite valuable for April, that I put after my weekly layouts, was having a designated space for brain dumping. So that's the page that I'm setting up here. In this one I'm calling it Notes and Tasks. I'm not against the word brain dump, I just don't think it sounds particularly pleasant. But I figured that Notes and Tasks was a pretty good descriptor of what's going to end up on this page. This one took about 5 minutes to set up, and that time was certainly increased by doing those green lines, though I really enjoy having them in there. Although drawing pandas was a bit of a challenge for me, and doing a monthly setup in the B5 is certainly new, I think I'm really going to enjoy this monthly setup. I think it's really cute. Some of the pandas look a little bit more derpy than other ones, but all in all, I think they're pretty sweet. Let me know which panda is your favourite panda. My one is probably the panda that's on the monthly log, sitting on top of the Sunday box, but I'd love to hear which one you like. Hopefully this video has given you some inspiration for May, and if you are still looking for more, be sure to check out my playlist of May bullet journal setups, which we have linked on the screen here. As always team, thank you for watching, and until next time, bye!